Hey folks, Yakult Cosmopolitan here. The 2025-2026 offseason is in full swing, and most Nippon professional baseball teams have already completed their foreign player acquisitions for this upcoming season. Now today, I'm just going to talk about the 6 Central League teams because the Pacific League, I think a few of them, like SoftBank, still probably have a few more guys that will trickle in. But when it comes to the CL teams, I do believe most of the signings are already complete. So let's begin with the defending pennant-winning Hanshin Tigers. They've signed utility man Cam Devaney. They've signed right-handed pitcher Carson Ragsdale, right-handed pitcher Yomiuri Giants, and left-handed pitcher Easton Lucas. I'm not going to spend all that much time on every single one, but I do want to take a look here at Cam Devaney. So he is listed as a third baseman here, but he can really play all around the infield, even a little bit of outfield. And last season, he was traded in July from Kansas City to Pittsburgh in the Adam Frazier deal because he had some great numbers at the AAA level. Did not really translate to the major leagues, but this is a very exciting talent that Hanshin is bringing in. I've pulled up his page from the great website Prospect Savant here. And you see that he was 83rd percentile in xWOBA, 94th percentile in barrel rate, 77th in hard hit rate. A lot of stuff to like. However, K rate is a little bit up there at 25%. Whiff rate is only 16th percentile. And then the in zone contact, 11th percentile, is not good either. I think typically when you see the more successful foreign bats in NPB over the last 5 years or so, you think Tyler Austin, Domingo Santana, Franmil Reyes, Luke Voigt most recently. They are more in the big hulking slugger territory that posts crazy exit velos. Devaney definitely isn't that. More of an athletic build. Was only 56th percentile in max EV, which, when you don't have light tower power, I do think the whiff, the swing and miss concerns can be a bit of a problem. Chase rate is around average. So I can definitely see a scenario where the bat does not really translate all that well. However, with that being said, he did do well in things like pull air and stuff. Like you see the spray chart is a lot, pull side, which will help him. In NPB, we'll see how dead the balls are this upcoming year. But the other part of the equation, obviously, is that Devaney plays pretty good defense, and he can move around. I think if he has a good spring, you can pencil him in to be the starting shortstop, actually, for Hanshin. It's a position that they've been pretty weak at, even as they've won 2 of the last 3 pennants. They've tried, kind of rotating Seiya Kinami and Ryuhei Obata, but neither of them have really been able to stick. They've had their moments, pretty clutch at times, but in general, below average defense and not much in the way of power. So Devaney can really change their fortunes at short, and we'll see how he does. Carson Ragsdale is a former top prospect, and he's more interesting from the perspective that he went to Florida Baseball Armory over the winter, and tweet here says, in just 3 months at the Armory, Carson Ragsdale has both an elite fastball. His level of commitment since he showed up has been absolutely incredible to watch. He has left no box unchecked. And then he just signed with Hanshin. So, 2025 Ragsdale in the minors, not the best numbers, but there are some things about his profile that mimic what Hanshin got in John Duplantier last year in terms of his frame, in terms of the delivery, some of the pitch characteristics. And Ragsdale did not have the best fastball last year, but, if he has improved it, as we see here over the winter, I think this can go a long way to make him a successful starter in Japan. Maybe you just want to kind of unleash him as a reliever. I think he has the capacity to do that as well. But I'm excited to see what Hanshin can cook up with him as a starter. Yomiuri Giants, this is a guy who will definitely not be starting. He will be out of the pen. Back in 2023 with Pittsburgh, 3.72 ERA, 76 strikeouts in 58 innings. You see he was 95th percentile in K rate there at 32%, which is obviously excellent. And he was 94th percentile in xERA, so not too far removed from being, a great pitcher. 2025, it was a lower sample, and he still wasn't bad. I mean, he was quite good, at least in terms of surface level stuff. But the most interesting part about Moreta, obviously, is this slider of his. He threw it 65% of the time back in 2023, mid-80s, and it has this reverse shape, almost like a Tatsuya Imai, although Moreta throws from a higher arm angle. So, I mean, you think Trey Savage. But yeah, I mean, this slider is going to be a little bit more platoon neutral than your average like sweepy slider. And, you know, I think he's going to absolutely eat up righties with it. Just a really kind of unique, unorthodox profile that he brings to an already loaded Hanshin bullpen. I can definitely see him throwing out of the 7th or 8th inning. And then Easton Lucas, kind of a cult legend with Toronto earlier in 2025 because he had a couple of good starts, tapered off towards the end. And then in AAA, his numbers were not all that great, although 25% K rate is pretty nice. You know, the stuff does not really jump off the charts, but he does have, 5 pitches to work with, and, we'll see what Hanshin can do. I think he can be a decent kind of depth piece out of the rotation and give length at times. We look at the Yokohama DeNA Baystars, and they have really kind of revamped this entire foreign core because they lost Trevor Bauer, Andre Jackson, Anthony Kay, 3 foreign pitchers, and Rowan Wick, their top reliever, all in the same winter. So they have really had to completely bring in a new crop. And then in terms of the hitters as well, they kept Diane Viciato, but no more Tyler Austin, who was a big superstar for them, although he had injury problems. So Cooper Hummel is an outfielder, athletic, versatile player in terms of, he played catcher at one point, but he has kind of bounced around a few organizations, not much success at the major league level, but AAA, he has been consistently well above average. 92nd percentile in xWOBA last year, 98th percentile in max EV, so a guy that can definitely hit the crap out of the ball, good barrel rate, but I think the most important part of this profile is that he is 96th percentile in walk rate and 90th percentile in chase rate. Pull air also very good. Like a lot of these indicators of success, right? The kind of underlying numbers, Hummel's definitely got them, and he had a 175 WRC plus in AAA last year. So I think this is a great pickup. As far as his floor, it's very high because he can walk. So I don't know how the power is going to look. Maybe 15 homers would be a pretty good projection for him, but so long as he's walking, he's giving you value, and I think he can be a nice table setter at the top of the lineup, hitting one or two for them. Masayuki Kuwahara left as a free agent to go to Seibu. Hummel, he can play all 3 outfields. I think he's probably better in a corner. But yeah, I think this is a really nice signing for DeNA, a guy that gives you, legit upside as well as being pretty safe. I just don't really see a scenario where Hummel doesn't work out. Jose Ruiz, reliever with quite a bit of MLB experience, 9 seasons under his belt, 286 innings there of, fairly solid results. This stuff does not necessarily jump off the page, but it's a super deep mix. He sits mid-90s on the fastball, and he should give them another good option out of the pen. Sean Reynolds, though, I like even more. He is listed as 6'8", 250 pounds, and he sits 96 on his fastball, runs it up into the high 90s. If you look at just 2024, super small sample, only 11 innings, but he struck out 21 batters and was, deep red in all these stats. This guy kind of screams Trey Wingenter to me, right? The high ride fastball, the slider. Wingenter's a bit of a different slider shape, but Reynolds has the slider and the sweeper. Those typically kind of blend in NPB because they don't really track sweepers, but you will see this guy get a lot of strikeouts, I think, as the Rowan Wick replacement in the 8th inning. Wick was awesome, but he's hurt, so that's why they didn't bring him back. I do think DeNA is going to like what they see out of Sean Reynolds, though. And then we should also touch on John Duplantier, of course, who was just an absolute stud with the Hanshin Tigers in his debut NPB season. Only 90 and 2/3 innings. That's kind of been his, problem throughout his career, his injuries, just being unable to give much in the way of volume. And then this past season, he got hurt in August, and we didn't really see him again until Game 2 of the Japan series, where he just looked really rusty and kind of got rocked in that start. But for the first 3-4 months, he was the best starter in NPB, like numbers wise, just indisputably so. He was 98th percentile in ERA plus, 100th percentile in basically everything else, including a 32% strikeout rate, which is like 5% higher than even, Tatsuya Imai and Levon Monello and all these great aces that we always talk about. So John Duplantier, I think there's probably some component of like injury risk / medicals that made Hanshin walk away from him. We also knew that SoftBank were closing in on a deal with him, but decided, not to finalize a deal. And then a few weeks later, we learned that it is DeNA giving him $3 million per year. So they're paying him big money to give them upside. Like, I don't think they necessarily expect, immediately 150 innings out of him when he has never really done that in his career. But if he can give them 110 to 120, extremely high quality innings, and he's a big game pitcher for them in the postseason, that's going to make a big difference because they have a lot of depth in that rotation. They signed Shintaro Fujinami midway through last year. They have young guys like Yutaro Ishida, Yu Takeda. They have veterans like Kentaro Taira, who's awesome when he's healthy. He's always hurt. And then they have Katsuki Azuma at the top of the rotation, who's an absolute workhorse and quality start machine. So I think they needed someone like a Duplantier, especially with losing Kay and Jackson, a big foreign pitcher that can potentially help them in big games like in the playoffs. And then one other player they've signed is Austin Cox, 28-year-old, formerly of the Braves, kind of more like in the Easton Lucas range. Like the AAA numbers weren't necessarily outstanding, but he has a lot of pitches, and maybe there's a world where he learns to become a really complete kind of pitch to contact guy like Anthony Kay was able to do. All right, Yomiuri Giants, they lost Kazuma Okamoto, their face of the franchise this offseason, but they've replenished with Bobby Dahlbeck. So we'll get into the pitchers in a second, but let's start with Dahlbeck. He was obviously a really exciting up-and-coming player for the Red Sox during those pandemic years like 2020, 2021, putting up some good home run numbers, but really kind of fell off a cliff and just has not been able to get it done at the MLB level over the past 3 years or so. In AAA, though, still putting up these crazy exit velos, 98th percentile in max EV, 97th percentile in hard hit rate, 98th in barrel rate. This guy can absolutely rake when he makes contact. It's just that, 6th percentile whiff rate, 6th percentile in zone contact rate. This is not a, great profile in terms of making contact. Chase rate's also not good. So I do think his OBP floor is quite low. You might see him actually run into 20 homers, but he's going to do so with a very low batting average, very low OBP. That being said, I do think, as I mentioned earlier when talking about Devaney, a lot of the big bets that NPB teams put on, the Franmil Reyes of the world, who also obviously had swing and miss concerns, it worked out because they have this crazy raw thump. And Bobby Dahlbeck definitely does bring that. He's also, for a first baseman, not necessarily like slow speed and zero defensive value. He can actually play like multiple positions. I think he even played shortstop for the White Sox this past year. But if you view him as more like a corner infielder, then, he's not going to be a 1-for-1 replacement for Kazuma Okamoto, but he does obviously, he is obviously going to be a big threat in the middle of that order. And it's funny that Yomiuri's taken this massive risk on not just Dahlbeck, but also Trey Cabbage, bringing him back for his second year, and then Richard Tsunagawa, who they traded for. There's 3 guys there that might be running a 30% K rate in NPB, but they could all hit, 25 plus homers. They're all sort of 0 or 100 type guys, but if 1 or 2 of them hit, then that makes this lineup look a whole lot different in 2026. And then 3 pitchers here in Spencer Howard, formerly of the Rakuten Eagles. He had some injury issues. That's kind of been his whole thing throughout his entire career, really. But when he was on the mound, he was quite good. So, nice adding depth there. And then Forrest Whitley. I think this is the signing of the winter. Former top prospect with the Houston Astros, never quite worked out there, but he got traded to Tampa Bay. And in AAA this past year, I mean, he was blowing away the competition, especially in the second half. But, he threw 61 innings, a 2.8 ERA, and he had a 31% strikeout rate, which was 87th percentile. The walks were being kept in check as well, which has been something that's been an issue for him in the past. But just, a lot of red here. And when you just take a look at his pitch mix, he is sitting 95 on the four seam, and say that comes down 1 or 2 ticks in NPB, that still really makes him one of the 5 or 10 hardest throwers in the league. And then he has a really nice cutter, as well as a bunch of off speeds in the change, the slurve, and the curve. I think in particular, the stuff plus numbers, I mean, these are off the charts on basically all these pitches. He has a sinker as well that he can couple with the four seam. So I can see him getting, effective against both lefties and righties. And so long as he stays healthy, to me, this might end up being one of the best pitchers in NPB this upcoming season. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying best foreign pitcher. I'm saying one of the best pitchers in NPB, period, if the talent is able to show up. Brian Mata is another one who is a former top prospect in Boston's system, never made it to MLB. But again, the raw stuff is pretty juicy, right? I mean, he sits 96.7 on the sinker, and then the four seam's a little bit higher at 97. He has a slider, which is probably his best pitch. The stuff itself is definitely, there's a lot to like here. Lower kind of release point as well. It's just that with him, he is a little bit more like reliever fodder, I would say. Like the command is genuinely not good. With Whitley, I think it was more kind of mechanical, and once he kind of cleans that up, I think he will be able to throw strikes. Brian Mata, I do genuinely worry, like, is this going to be more of like a back-end reliever who just is pumping gas? Maybe he can run it up to, 97, 98 more regularly at that point. But, likewise, if he takes a few ticks off and he's sitting 94, then that probably helps him with the control. And Mata and Whitley, as well as Howard, I mean, what a big group of arms to bring in one off season. Are they going to give you a huge amount of volume? Probably not individually, but when you combine all of them, maybe you're getting 160, 170 innings, basically one full, elite pitcher with the three of them combined. But I'm definitely highest on Whitley. I think that guy can genuinely be like a number 2 in their rotation. Chunichi is Miguel Sano and Albert Abreu. Miguel Sano obviously has been tied to NPB and just Asian baseball in general for several seasons. He was a great candidate for it, but he comes over now in 2026. He did not play affiliate ball in 2025, only Dominican Winter League as far as I know. But basically every year this guy's ever played, he just puts up the most insane max EVs and hard hit rates. I mean, 2021, his last full season, he was, top 1% of MLB with a 56% hard hit rate and a 117 max EV. These are his entire percentiles for that year. The whiff and the Ks are obviously a problem. I mean, 34% K rate in basically what was one of his best years. That goes to show you, like, even when this guy is right, he is still going to swing and miss a ton. That being said, what makes Sano a little bit different from, say, Bobby Dahlbeck is that his chase rate is also quite solid. And in fact, these are smaller samples, but 2024, the last time he played in the big leagues with the Angels, chase rate was obviously good. 2022, which, was a terrible start to the year, which is why he got released, chase rate was still good. It's just, this is a bit more of the same Munetaka Murakami problem, where he is just, whiffing at pitches in the zone. I like that. That is much preferable to a guy that is, doing the Javi Baez thing of just kind of swinging out of his shoe tops at everything. Miguel Sano, even if he can only hit 210, 220 in NPB, the walk rate, if he runs just a 10% walk rate like he did in 2021, they're at 11%. This guy can definitely maintain enough of an OBP floor to where I think the power can come through, and Chunichi's bringing the fences in there at Nagoya Dome. So this might be a 25 to 30 homer bat. I can genuinely see that with Miguel Sano. First base, third base, I would much rather see him at first. Move Jason Vossler, who was also very good in his debut season, to the hot corner. And the Dragons are low-key cooking with this position player core. They have, a good domestic player base now with Seiya Hosokawa, Yukio Kobayashi, Seiji Uebayashi, Kenta Bright, Hiroki Fukunaga. If Miguel Sano ends up, anything close to what, say, Franmil Reyes or Luke Voigt have done, this is a playoff team for the first time in over a decade. And then Albert Abreu, this guy was formerly in NPB with Cebu just a couple of years ago. I don't really think he's changed all that much about his game since we last saw him. I think he's been starting in the Dominican Winter League, so that's a little bit different. Going to be more of just a pure reliever in Japan. But yeah, I mean, he's all right. He's a depth piece for the bullpen. Hiroshima Carp, they signed right-handed pitcher Freddie Tarnok. That's their only pickup so far, and Freddie Tarnok is pretty interesting. I definitely don't view him as quite, Forrest Whitley caliber, but a lot of things to like there. He had a 26% K rate in AAA this year as, more of like a swingman, or I guess a short starter, you could say, like giving you 4 or 5 innings. That's going to be the biggest adjustment for guys like this coming to NPB if they're expected to pitch on a regular, 6-man schedule. They have to give you 100 pitches, 6-7 innings once a week, and that's just the expectation that you're supposed to do. I think he's capable of it, though, because you look at the pitch mix, 4-seam slider, change, curve, sinker. There's enough there that can get him outs against both handedness. One thing that interests me, though, is his changeup. The specs on it are not great. I mean, the stuff plus number here is 82, which is not all that impressive. But he threw it 11% of the time righty-righty, which is pretty unconventional. I do wonder if Hiroshima can maybe add like a splitter to help him out. But some of these other pitches, like I think the slider will play, the curveball at one point, like baseball, MLB Pipeline gave it a 60 grade. So I think Tarnok can be pretty effective in that capacity, and he averaged 95.5 on the fastball. Again, with all these guys, I kind of bake in like, say, 1 or 2 ticks off of that, because NPB teams typically prefer that as opposed to max effort, just so you can improve the command and keeps the walk at bay, which is an issue for him. Not the best in terms of throwing strikes, but Tarnok threw limited innings at the MLB level and actually had quite a bit of success this past year with the Marlins, and in the past with Oakland and Atlanta. So I think Freddie Tarnok, as a mid-rotation guy, why not? And then we finish off with the Tokyo Yakult Swallows, who, like Yomiuri, lost a pretty big superstar there in Munetaka Murakami. I mean, the team finished in last place, even with Murakami's contributions. So I don't expect them to be very good this year. It's going to be more of a transition season, but obviously, they're still going to try to compete to the best of their abilities, and they've done so with 3 pitchers here: Jesus Lorenzo, Nash Walters, and Jose Quijada. Nash Walters was with Chunichi last year, so he's already been in Japan. I think they picked him out at Driveline Pro Day, so that was already like a pretty unconventional thing to see out of an NPB team, but he has some really good traits on multiple pitches. Mostly was a reliever last year on the farm with Chunichi, just had limited innings at the top level. But towards the end of the season, they were trying him as a starter. And I kind of envision Yakult doing that with him in 2026. I think they will give him a little bit of run as a starter and see what he can do. I mean, he throws hard, has a nice slider. So we'll see what Walters can do. Lorenzo and Quijada, though, are more known quantities. They are going to be relievers for sure. Lorenzo, no MLB experience, but AAA last year. I mean, this is pretty solid stuff. 26% K rate, sitting 96 on the fastball. He was doing good in the Dominican Winter League as well. I do wonder if he's going to struggle against same-handed hitters, actually, because I think his best pitch by far is the changeup, which he threw 30% of the time to lefties. But then he doesn't have like any breaking ball to righties, so that may be a slight issue for him, but he can be okay as probably like a 6th or 7th inning guy. Jose Quijada, though, to me is more exciting because this guy plays with a lot of fire and intensity, as you have seen with the Angels for 7 seasons. There he was with them, but also Team Venezuela at the WBC. The fun thing with Quijada is he is basically all four-seam fastball. 2021, I think, was the last time he really pitched a significant amount of innings at the MLB level. I guess 2022, so we can go there. But he is basically all fastballs. I mean, no joke. 85% four-seam fastball, and then he has the changeup to righties, and then what looks to me more like a sweeper than a slider going away to lefties. But now, basically, he is giving you high ride, cut fastball the entire time, and he sits 94.5. This past year, 95.5. So I definitely think this will play in NPB, especially considering that, lefties in Japan, it's kind of rare to see them throw over 93 in general. You got foreigners like Taylor Hearn that do it, and they've actually had a lot of success. Just with Quijada, I guess, obviously the concern is he's almost exclusively a one-pitch pitcher. So how far is that going to get him? I imagine the Swallows do want him to, throw something other than just the four-seam changeup. Reincorporating that slider, sweeper, whatever it is, could definitely be nice for him. But he's still only 30 years old, so I can definitely see Quijada becoming a key player in the Swallows as they continue this rebuild, and maybe be there in 2 to 3 years' time when they're actually competing as kind of a nice setup man. But yeah, that is where we're at currently for Central League teams and their foreign player signings this winter. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more NPB content in English.